I really hope this angle would have allowed for me not to wear any pants. But alas, here I am wearing shorts. Today we're talking about journaling. Before we get in though, I have good news and incredibly disappointing news. Let's start with the disappointments so that we end on a high note. This microphone is not plugged in. That's because when I tried plugging it in, it made the worst noise ever. And you couldn't even hear my voice. For the moment, it's just an accessory. The good news, and this is actually so funny, you're propped up on my stack of the Dork Diaries books, which is so ironic, and you're soon to see why. Hi, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to, if you're new. I thought of doing a sit-down video, which I don't really do on this channel. Journaling has been a very big part of my life, and I've been doing it for years. I'll just show you my collection of journals. Those are all the ones that I've completed. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them. And this is the journal that I'm currently writing in. In this video, I want to touch on why I journal and see the fun in journaling because it's actually such a fun practice. I hope that your main takeaway from this is going to be that something good for you in terms of your overall mental and emotional equilibrium can also be fun and enjoyable, and I'm here to show you how. I'm gonna start with a little backstory of how I got into journaling. This is where the stack that you're propped up on comes into play because I grew up reading the Dork Diaries books, which, for people who don't know, is basically a series of books. It's written as this girl's diary. When I was young and these books were just coming out, I was so obsessed with the idea of having a diary. In my head, it was the coolest thing in the world. So, of course, every time that I would go out shopping with my parents, I would beg for them to get me a diary or a journal. The story would always go the same. I'd write maybe 2 or 3 pages and then forget about it for the rest of my life. However, clearly, I've done something one time that made it stick. And what that was my first journal. How sentimental. This is, I think people call it a commonplace book, or maybe I'm using the term wrong, but basically in this notebook, I just did everything that I wanted. So it started off as a journal and I would write every single day for like a week. Today I did this and that, whatever.
This is actually very funny because the term journal comes from the French word jour, which means day. So technically journaling refers to writing every single day.
And then I would forget about it. But when it got to the point in my life where I needed a notebook to just like write stuff down or keep track of things, I would use this very quickly actually. It started to fill up and it got to the point where I went on a trip with my family and I took it with me and I journaled every single day of that trip because I wanted to remember it. And on the last day of the trip, I finished the journal and I was like, wow, that is a high I have never felt before in my entire life. I became dependent on that feeling of finishing a notebook. Do you know what I mean? The thing that I learned from this one was that I should keep it fun and keep expectations low. And it's my journal and I do whatever I want with it. I essentially debunked what I thought a journal was. I thought that a journal was a book where you write Dear Diary or whatever, and then you start writing about your secrets and stuff, which it can be, but obviously that wouldn't fill up notebooks. Do you know what I mean? Or if it would take a shit ton of time. When I turned it into something more individual to myself, I found a system that actually worked and that I could be consistent with. And throughout my journals, I constantly switch up styles. So I'll show you some examples. This is my pride and joy, my 4th journal, April to December 2021. Also, my journal is varying in size. Like this one only took 2 months to complete, whereas this one's only like halfway done and I started it in January. The reason why this 4th journal is so special to me is because I went all out. I put a lot of pictures on every single page. I wrote every single day, which I did for like maybe 3 years, and then I stopped this year because it just did not become sustainable. And that's another thing. You can write every single day if you want to, but I got to a point in my life where it became too much of a chore. In order for me to love something, I have to do it because I want to, not because I feel like I have to. And the second that journaling became that, I was like, we're switching it up. That's why this year I've only used one journal so far, and it's not even done because I'm not forcing myself to write in it if I don't feel like it. But then after this fourth one, because keeping up a journal with so many pictures and stuff stuck to it, it's incredibly time consuming and it takes a lot of effort. So my next journal, I just had a notebook where I only wrote in. This is what all the pages look like. It's just text. And I felt like I needed that as a refresher after the other notebook. The way that I ensure that I keep this hobby of mine alive and well and thriving is by adjusting it to my needs at the time. When I had journals like these, where I would journal at least a page every single day, there would get to a point in my writing where I'd be like, I actually have no idea what I'm gonna write about. And sometimes in that lack of idea, I got to write about stuff that I was uncomfortable or stuff that I had to write about, but I couldn't have accessed if I wasn't in a state of boredom. But what do you actually journal about? I'm here to tell you. By definition, and I haven't Googled this, I just made it up, so take that as you will. I do have credentials, as you've seen. Journaling is writing in a notebook. Obviously, in school, we all use notebooks to write random stuff in. Is that journaling? I don't think it is. You probably don't think it is. Duh. I think as long as you put pen to paper and you write about anything that's on your mind, that is journaling. Also, if you're ever stuck, there's a lot of journaling prompts on Pinterest, so you could use those. Here's some of my favorites. When I first started, the stuff that I would journal about was, today I did this, and then we went there, and then we met. Essentially a retelling of my day. Now, when I truly started using journaling as a tool, it became something that I turned to process my emotions. I feel like I've gotten to a point where I feel comfortable to journal about uncomfortable things. When you're new to journaling, I would recommend, first and foremost, not putting yourself in a box. Because I did this all the time. And what I mean by this is starting a journal and being like, okay, in this journal, I'm only going to write at night. And I'm gonna write 1.5 pages every single night. And I'm gonna use a blue pen to do it because I like writing with blue ink. All of that is understandable, and I did that. Hello. It is very limiting. I do believe that limitation can foster creativity, but sometimes being over limited doesn't make the thing enjoyable in the slightest. So what I'd recommend, especially if you've never journaled before, is start with a book where you feel comfortable exploring different styles. If you feel like doing some bullet journaling spreads for a couple of weeks, do that. But then if you start a bullet journal and you see that it doesn't work, you feel almost like pressured into either finishing the notebook, or you feel so stressed that you just abandon it and you never continue journaling again. This is what I did at first, and it really worked for me. I would do collages, I do some like bullet journal spreads, and then just streams of consciousness. And in balancing all of those things, I kept it new, fresh, and enjoyable, and ultimately discovered the style that I still use in my notebooks now. Focusing on the aesthetics is going to be the downfall. We're obviously surrounded by so many beautiful pictures of journals on Pinterest and TikTok and everywhere, and you see these people having the most incredibly aesthetically pleasing spreads. And I'm not saying that's not achievable, because I do it in my journals sometimes, but that's the thing, it only happens occasionally, and that's because it's not realistic. So take the pressure off. It doesn't have to be beautiful, because even the people that post gorgeous notebooks, it's either that's their entire job or they're only showing the highlights. In my current journal, I have spreads like these, stuff like this. Are these pages cute? Sure. Are they incredible? I don't think so. It's just the cherry on top. You need to focus on the cake. You need to focus on the core. You need to focus on the substance. Journaling is a tool, not a chore. It is there to serve you. I think that you should start something that you can be consistent with long term, and the one way to achieve that is to make it something that you want to return to.
So if aesthetics does that for you, then great. But if it doesn't, I say don't put too much emphasis on how things look.
And this is a very basic tip, and I'm sure you've heard it a million times before, but choose stationery you'll actually use. Because I've had ugly notebooks, and frankly, I've maybe written a third of the way through before I was like, I actually can't put myself through this anymore, because I hated the notebook that I was writing in. I wouldn't say the most important, but it's perhaps one of the most essential ones in journaling when you don't feel like it and keeping consistent. Romanticize it. Make yourself a coffee, make yourself a tea, sit down at your writing desk, light up a candle, play some jazz, and just write. Because adding that glitter around it, enhancing the whole experience of journaling, will first of all make you feel like you're in a movie, and I'm certified to say that because I'm a film student, but it will also elevate the activity into something that you can look forward to. Even by associating, and this is going into classical conditioning, so associating journaling with something that you like. For example, if you have tea that you really enjoy drinking, make yourself a cup every time that you journal. So then you're gonna associate journaling with something that you love already. So you're gonna love journaling because you already love that thing. That's my little crash course. No feeling is better than finishing a journal and also having a place that you can go back to and reflect on your personal growth and on your life, essentially. I started journaling in 2019 when I was freshly 14. I am 19 now, so I have the majority of my teenage years documented in writing. It's very gratifying to almost have that archive of your life. Even if you don't journal every single day, it is so nice to go a couple of weeks back and see how much you've developed as a person. Thank you so much for sticking to the end. If you have any questions, pop them down below. I hope to see you in the next one, and I'm sending you lots of love.